Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
You're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy. Fanboy.
Fanboy.
Fanboy.
Fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot. I assume Tom.
Erik Bork, I'm glad to talk to you about The Elephant in the Room, a fun rom-com about two, how do I put this, ships in the night, arguing over politics during the middle of the pandemic and the lockdowns.
That's pretty good. Yeah, right after the 2020 election, December of that year, two people meet, one of whom is a ardent progressive, the other voted for Trump both times, and are they going to be able to figure out a way forward because they have a lot of chemistry?
I will be fair in saying that Leia isn't as insufferable as we would have expected. So, thank you for making her a decent human being.
Well, thank you for saying that. It's a bit of a Rorschach test, how people are going to react to these characters, especially if you have the same or different political views. If you feel you've met people like that, or the people that they support, you have a certain view about, so therefore they fit with that. And part of our goal was to make them palatable but believable to all sides.
Right. No, you did a great job with it. And, I think you'll probably get backlash from the extremes on opposite ends that want to hold to, those views, as strictly as possible. But I think you did a very fair and balanced job with this, and I commend you for it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I feel that that's true, that in terms of, well, you can never please everyone, and I can already imagine criticism that could come from any different direction. Anything that someone says, I've probably already thought it. But the goal is that the masses of people who aren't as polarized as we think will be able to take a breath and go, this is a lighthearted, endearing, funny journey that is disarming instead of making me tense. Right. That's the idea.
Although I will say Martin is the master manipulator in all of this.
Martin is the housemaid of the progressive female who she's kind of roped into caring about her boy drama, and he doesn't really want to, but they've become friends. Right. So master manipulator, say more.
Well, because all he does is reinforce her paranoia, and it ends up being reverse psychology that she keeps giving Vincent a chance.
Interesting. Yeah. So you think he's playing one way, but he's really manipulating?
I think he's playing one way, but really manipulating because he just wants her off his case because he doesn't want to exercise with her.
Yeah, well, I like that interpretation. I hadn't heard that before. What I have heard before is everybody loves that character and finds him to be the most, maybe because he's not representing either side of the politics necessarily, and is also funny. So
it is a nice touch that he's a foreigner on top of it, that he's a British immigrant to the United States, so he has a completely separate ideology or worldview when it comes to this.
Yeah. I mean, that's as accidental as a British actor who said, I feel like I can play the comedy of this better with my real voice. I was like, okay, I can buy him English.
So take me through the process of writing this script. Did you reach across party lines when you met your significant other, or was it something, you saw with siblings? Yeah.
Not even with siblings, although with friends a little bit. Yeah. I mean, look, my dad, I had opposite politics with my dad growing up and stuff like that, like a lot of people. But basically how this came about is I've been a screenwriter for a very long time. I've worked, I was a writer-producer on Band of Brothers, worked with Tom Hanks on a bunch of projects. He really gave me my start, and I had a whole Hollywood screenwriting career, thanks in large part to him. And I've also been very interested in romantic comedy for a long time. I've written a few that didn't get made. And what I learned, I think Nora Ephron said, the thing in the way of the relationship is what's most important in a romantic comedy. And it has to be big, and it has to be believable, and the audience has to want the people to be together despite it seeming to be impossible because of that thing. And so around 2016, I started thinking that politics could be that thing in a movie today. Maybe not 20 years ago, but certainly 10 years ago, and certainly now, that it's big enough to be that thing. At the same time, I started feeling in my own life polarization, just noticing, to me, seemed like a very big problem where, our leaders and many media figures seem incentivized to be polarized and to keep us polarized. And, I'm not an activist, it's a comedic film, it's a romantic movie, but it's not trying to get anyone to change any particular views or anything like that or take action, but it is trying to look at that problem through a new lens that hopefully would make people say, okay, that's I see it differently, or I don't know, I just think about it. I mean, people when they see the movie, they tend to want to talk about their own lives and about this issue in their own lives. Also, I had a friend who was on the opposite side when in 2016, and he was a more complicated figure than I would have expected someone on the opposite side. And I also had people helping me in the script process who are really like anti-polarization people professionally, like nonprofits who really care about this issue and have supported the movie. And they gave me notes about, well, how do you make both characters not polarizing and complicated and believable and likable, et cetera, to both sides. So I really took that on board too.
Right, because neither one of them is truly insufferable. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, that's the best compliment you could give me because that was definitely a goal. And there were times where I wasn't sure I'd reach that goal. There were even early cuts of the movie we showed people where they did find one of them insufferable. Enough people did that I was like, okay, we got to tone that down. We got to fix it.
One thing you mentioned, and this is just a quick political nuance, is that we make the mistake of keep saying leaders, leaders, leaders. We're Americans. We have representatives. We don't have leaders. And that's our biggest mistake is we give too much authority to people outside of our houses. Like during the pandemic, when they were trying to get everybody to turn on their neighbor, if someone had more than 6 people over at their house for Thanksgiving or whatever, call the cops on them. Like that drove me nuts. And one neighbor down the street said, so I'm going to have more than 6 people at my house. And I said, so I don't care because I'm half a block away. It doesn't matter. And he was like, well, because someone already threatened to call the police. And I was like, if someone called the police on me for having more than 6 people in my house during the pandemic, when someone breaks into their house, I'm going to help them find stuff. So it's just one of those things. But I also like the fact that it's in the middle of the lockdowns. They're still trying to figure out positioning. They're still trying to figure out who they really are. One of the moments where Vincent is dealing with his grandmother and Leia almost tries to come in between him and his relationship with his grandmother, who has a completely different political ideology that she did. My automatic reaction is you don't mess with family. So it's just one of those things. But I think that's going to be a typical response from at least a third of the audience.
Yeah, I mean, some of these things are not, I think not easy answers, and there might be different answers depending on what your views are and what your life experience is. So, and I don't think she really messes with family, but she is kind of like, I mean, I don't want to give away the plot, but it's a pretty important thing that happened in January of 2021 that becomes part of the discourse, let's say.
Right, but it's the love of grandma versus, hey, this could be, a potential mate.
Right, yeah.
But what's exciting about this is that, like most rom-coms, you don't root for either one of them to be happy at the end of it. Like you look at them and you're like, these are 2 awful people. I don't want any of them to find success in a relationship. And here with Vincent and Leia, we actually are rooting for them, which is a very rare turn of events, especially in rom-coms.
Well, I'm guessing you're not a fan of rom-coms because for me, most great rom-coms, you do root for both of them. Bad ones, maybe you don't, but the whole goal is you root for that relationship. So I can name a lot of movies where I do root for them, but that's a great compliment and I'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, no, because they're like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or, things like that where I'm just like, I don't want any of them to be happy.
Yeah. I wouldn't call that one of the classics of the genre, but I mean, I think it did pretty well, but still, yeah.
We're not going to put on the level of Serendipity.
Serendipity, okay.
Yeah. As things come about, the reactions are coming through. The film is enjoyable, and I think that's your main goal is one, open up dialogue as a secondary aspect of can we reach across the aisles and be friends with each other. And the other one is, let's just have fun and see what develops between these 2 characters.
100%. I'm so glad that's what you took from it. To me, it's like more candy than medicine, so to speak. It's not like a serious documentary trying to change anyone's mind. It's first and foremost, hopefully you enjoy it. And if you like the people and want to see is this going to work out or not, and you're amused and entertained, that's first, but there is something that it's exploring that is also pertinent to our lives that maybe is also in there.
Take us through the casting process, because finding Elisa and Sean, your two main leads had to have been one of the more difficult things. And then Sandra as his grandmother Nancy, who has the best straight man one-liners throughout, is just hilarious on her own right. Like you almost want her and Martin to become friends at some point.
Yeah. I mean, she's amazing. Sandra Ellis Lafferty. She's based in the South, but she's done a lot of really big movies. When I saw her reel, and no one had pitched her to me, I just like found her somewhere online. It's all scenes with like Robert Redford in this movie, Jake Gyllenhaal in that movie. She was Reese Witherspoon's mother in Walk the Line. She was in The Hunger Games with Jennifer Lawrence. Small but memorable roles. But the other two, yeah, I mean, Alyssa and Dominic, who plays Martin, I knew a bit, and I kind of wrote the part with him in mind. I always knew I wanted him. The other two, the two romantic leads, though, I didn't know them. I didn't know their work. It was really, a process of like getting submissions from agents and looking at reels of people over and over again. And yeah, Alyssa, I mean, Alyssa has a viral comedy following. She's done a lot of like short, like sketch type character videos that are hysterical, and that won me over a lot. She's got a combination of kind of like frenetic, high energy mixed with, I think, kind of lovable. She also has she has a comedy special that's about her father's death and how she dealt with that, called No Bad Days, on Peacock. Seemed like an odd topic for a comedy special, but she pulled it off. So she's very impressive. And Sean also, I saw a variety of scenes from different things he'd done on just a reel that his agent sent. And it was like, this guy, he's got edge. He can be funny and goofy. He's very, very charming and handsome at the same time. And the two of them together didn't know each other, but they became really good friends and had a lot of chemistry, I thought.
Well, just the fact that you were able to pull this off with the way it's come about just makes it a little more fun, tongue in cheek and humor and lightheartedness. I think as the pendulum continues to swing, we're starting to look for comedies again. We're starting to look to laugh again. And it's one of those things where I'm happy because I want to laugh. I want to be able to crack jokes and have a good time with my friends and not focus on everything that's darker in the world, even though it's always going to be there, but we still need humor and enjoyment. So that's what I really appreciate about Elephant in the Room.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, I also comedy is I've always been even though I worked on Band of Brothers and other things that you wouldn't think I was a comedy guy, I've always wanted to write and do comedy, and it's what I usually look for to watch. I do think there is something about being able to laugh and being able to take things in a lighthearted way that we sometimes are missing a little bit in our culture today. That if I'm giving one small additive on the other side of that, then I'm glad.
Yeah. As the release is getting ready for August 14th, and people want to obviously enjoy a rom-com, have some fun, and then maybe even talk, because there are quite a few couples that are like that. One's on one side, the other's on the other, and the country's far more purple than it is red or blue. What would you like to tell the people on the extremes that are on the far left and the far right in watching the film? And what would you like to tell the average viewer in what they could get out of it?
Wow, that's a great question. I haven't prepared for that. Yeah, so I mean, the average viewer, I think it's like, it's okay. It's gonna be okay. It's not a movie about things that are going to be such a hot button that it's going to cause fights. I don't think with especially if you're in a couple with someone on the opposite side, you're probably well past all that. I think it's a warmer approach to dealing with that issue. And so, I would just say, hopefully it's a night of entertainment that you can, wrap your head around and enjoy. For people on the far extremes, I think I would agree with what you said, that I think we're more purple than we are red or blue, even though it doesn't seem that way if you like consume the news and you listen to the loudest voices on social media. And so I'm not trying to change people on any, far edge of either side, nor could I if I wanted to. But my hope is that they will be able to look at this and see if they could be surprised at all by what they see and by what people on their side and what the other side might look like in this fictional version, because we don't see it very often in the media. We don't see people being represented as one of the two sides or as a complicated mix of the two. It's kind of avoided, most of the time the media doesn't want to portray this very sticky thing. And so I can see some people wanting to shy away from it or being worried that it's going to just intensify that feeling of stress and polarization and anger or whatever. And I think it does the opposite.
No, absolutely. And that's what happens when you turn politics into sports and you pick between red or blue.
Yeah.
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 Erik, I really want to thank you for your time today, especially The Elephant in the Room coming out on August 14th. Where can we find you on social media to connect with you and keep the conversation going about the film?
Yeah, so the film has both a website and social media. It's elephantintheroomfilm.com, and also on Instagram, Elephant in the Room Film. And it's going to be on Amazon and Apple and all the other places you can rent or buy movies starting on the 14th of August.
Awesome. Congratulations on the film. Thank you for chatting with me today. Stick around for 1 minute. There's one thing I want to tell you off the record, just because I don't want to get roasted by everybody and I don't want YouTube to ding me for it. But I really appreciate your time.
Sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate you having me.